crumpled up in the corner.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Speakeasy.
I'm Zach.
I'm Jake.
We are the Dirt Road Men. Better. Insufficient. Featured whiskey today is Union Horse, a local Kansas City bourbon.
So good.
I did some kung fu this weekend and it went well.
We talked about it.
I literally just finished saying that, like, the ash on this was going great.
It was. I'm scared to touch it. Always ash, like, all over the place.
Yeah. I'm bad about trying to keep it too long and then it falling on me. So, we wanted to do our talk video this week on an event that loops into a subject and ideal that we very much like and appreciate. There are some disputed facts in this. However, I have taken the time to read both dissenting and supporting opinions on this event to try to get as close to what happened as I could possibly get in the, like, hour that I've looked at it this week. And that is Clive Bundy and his sons' two standoffs with the American federal government. Why do we like this? I feel like that's pretty obvious. We'll get there.
Okay.
This is a good example, excuse me, of armed civilians taking action against their government and it coming out good. Despite two confrontations across 2 or 3 years, only one person was injured, really injured, and that was a federal officer, who in his defense was probably just trying to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, how did this happen? How did the Bundy standoff start? For those who don't know, this was a land dispute, initially. And the federal government said that Bundy's cattle was trespassing on their land. This was in Nevada. And it might have been the state government, but no, the land would have been managed by the federal government. Anyway, so then they closed off this land, and they closed off a disputed portion of land, and on it was a good portion of Bundy's cattle, and they killed him. They ended up apparently not killing all of them. They did release some to try to alleviate some tension in the initial standoff in 2014.
Okay.
Now, the cool thing about this is that, you know, the government said, no, this is what we're doing, and the citizens said, no, this is government overreach. These are my cattle, and they were grazing on my land, and you are going to give me reparations for the cattle you've killed, and give me the rest of my cows back, and give me my land. I feel like Native Americans could relate to this guy's sentiment a little bit.
Yeah.
That said, this guy, and apparently some, like, local militias ended up getting involved with him as well. And when I say local militias, I mean people that organize their own militias. Because, let us not forget that the militia is all of the people. And, when the federal government showed up to say, we're doing this, they all showed up, armed and ready, for a fight, if they had to be, and said, no.
No, not today.
And the standoff in 2014 ended, and then there was another standoff with Clive Bundy's son, Ryan, I believe, and both of his sons and another guy named Ryan. And that one, they took over a federal building in Oregon over a similar/related land dispute over a similar section of public land. And this one made the news really big. I remember a lot of people being like, these are domestic terrorists and everything else, and that's how the news spun it.
Mm-hmm.
But really, these were just some farmers trying to...
get their land back?
Yeah. Now, a lot of the dissenting articles say, no, this was federal land. That's what the dispute was about. And so the dissenting articles naturally side with the federal government in saying that it was public land. And the supporting articles say, no, this was Clive Bundy's land, and he did it. And then the contention upon which they argued a lot of their court case after the second standoff, where several of them did get arrested, they surrendered after coming to a sort of amicable... to a sort of accord.
Okay.
An agreement. And so they surrendered, and they went into a court case, and they were originally indicted on 17 felonies.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, you're going to go ahead and take over a government building.
Yeah, and injure a federal agent in the process.
Yeah, you've got... Whether you're in the right or not, that is...
Yeah, you're at odds with the government now, boy. So, however, even though they were all initially convicted, I believe, the case was appealed. Ironically, one of the appeals happened by the prosecution, who felt like they didn't get sentenced to enough time. That prosecutor kind of made his own bed, because in early 2018, and I never heard this, the news let this story go, probably because they didn't want us to know that, some citizens can actually hold the government in check, even if it is just a bunch of dudes and their rifles in Nevada or Oregon.
I mean, change the states to, anywhere in New England. Change the year to 1776, and boom.
Yeah, exactly. 2018, a judge dismissed all of their charges with prejudice.
Oh.
And, almost all of their charges. Everything but, I believe, the charges for injuring that federal employee, which was not Bundy or one of his sons. It was the other guy named Ryan.
Okay.
And there were some other charges that the federal government then attempted to pursue against Bundy's family. And eventually, 45 heard about this. And in July of 2018, he pardoned everybody.
Wow.
I think he actually commuted the sentence of the one guy.
Commuted?
Meaning time served. We're
okay.
amending your sentence to time served. You get out now.
Okay.
Which is, in essence, the same as the pardon, but it doesn't remove the conviction.
Okay.
So he still has a felony conviction, and he's not going to get to own any more guns.
Okay.
But he can vote if he moves to Florida. Yeah, that turned out fairly well, and generally ended in the Bundy family's favor. And I bring this up even if I'm incorrect on some of the facts, because again, a lot of the articles disagree on the facts in the same places that the facts were disputed by Bundy and the government.
Okay.
Nonetheless, I think it is a perfect and the most recent example of an armed populace saying you will not overreach here.
Yeah.
And not being squashed by the government like a senator argued we would be last year. Nuked, I believe he used the phrase. And, like so many anti-gunners argued would happen.
Yeah. Now, the amount of force the government could apply to do something, small like that versus how much they're really going to apply is definitely going to be something different, because...
Well, it looks pretty bad when you're gunning down your own populace.
Yeah. And you also have to get all the people you're telling to go do these things to actually do it, and hope they don't have a conscience.
And essentially convince the American people, which I would say the media did a good job, that it needs to be done.
But
because attacking your own people without general public opinion in your favor is tantamount to career suicide,
it's what
if not actual suicide.
Hitler did. It's what Saddam Hussein did. Joseph Stalin, all these really, really terrible, terrible people.
I will say you could make an argument that that's what Abraham Lincoln did. But they had seceded by then, so, I mean...
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I don't consider, like, they say, the Civil War was, Americans fighting Americans, but they had succeeded, they had their own president, they were basically, like, they were trying to do what we did with Great Britain.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't really...
Yeah, it's not really the same.
Yeah.
And I do think we'll have a talk video more centering around the Civil War later because of the book I'm reading right now. But for now, that's not the point.
Okay.
But yeah, there are actually numerous other examples of armed populists standing up to the government. In fact, there was one in a county in Kentucky. I may butcher these facts. I haven't read about this one in a long time. It had to do with black voters.
Okay.
And some armed individuals made sure that the black voters got to vote.
Oh. How long ago was that?
60s.
Oh, okay. So, during the Civil Rights Movement and...
Yeah, but you don't hear that story.
No.
Probably because despite the fact that it supports one of the narratives they like to push around that time, it obviously also supports the pro-Second Amendment argument.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's just another great example of Americans doing exactly what the Second Amendment was meant for.
Heard a really, really good quote.
Yeah.
And I really like it.
What's that?
Don't be a thug if you can't take the slug.
That's a good point. And that's one thing I liked about the Bundy standoff is the guys that showed up to that were ready to die if they had to.
Yeah.
Like, you don't come armed like that thinking that there might not be a fight.
Mm-hmm. And you can't really just flex your muscles and, scare off the federal government.
I mean, that's kind of what they did. But they didn't really scare them off. They just matched them. But that was enough. I mean, we're talking about a couple hundred people here, tops. And it really takes that few people to make a stand and make a change. And while I wouldn't say they made a huge impact on the country overall, they did accomplish what they came there to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I commend our current president for making what I believe, based on the information I have, is the right choice in that scenario. And I would hope that even if they were still in prison, he would have made the right choice and said they did the right thing there.
Yeah.
Given that all the facts are as I understand them. I thought this story was important to bring up because it got buried after the surrender. Nobody wanted to talk about them being essentially acquitted in the news.
You could almost compare them to the Spartans versus the Persians, Thermopylae Pass.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm finding different ways to smack the same drum here. In pointing out how genuinely valuable this is to point out that, to show that we still can get a few dedicated people who genuinely follow the right principles to stand up and make a difference. And if you do want to view this negatively, it also means that a few dedicated, nefarious individuals could cause a real problem.
Yeah.
And so you need good people with a code like that, willing to do things like that for pinch situations. And to say that they never happen, as the media loves to argue when they argue anti-gun arguments, is when they argue anti-gun arguments. You know what I mean. Sorry. It's just a lie. And I didn't even know this until like a week ago. Because they like to hide their losses.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's obviously a very liberal slant to mainstream media.
Yeah. Even no matter which one you look at. I know Fox is more...
In some aspects.
In some aspect is more Republican, but...
Yeah, to some degrees, and not in others.
Yeah.
You know, my dad had Fox on the other day. He alternates in what news stations he watches every day, which I think is interesting. Some days he'll watch CBS, some days he'll watch ABC, NBC, and Fox. He tends to pepper Fox in there more often because they're the dissenting opinion, right, from the rest. But our local Fox station argued some things that you would not expect to come out of Fox in the last week. I can't remember what specifically. It really didn't matter to me that much. But I thought it was interesting to note.
I don't watch any of them, so...
I don't normally watch news at all. I get my news from sources I trust on, like, YouTube and such. And some sources I don't trust, but they're really popular voices for the other side. So, looking at you, Chinky. God, the way I just said that, I bet they'll clip that if we ever got big enough to pose a threat. Be like, look at this stupid hillbilly trying to say my name.
I don't know what you were trying to say.
He's the main guy on the Young Turks.
Oh. Okay.
I'll show you one of their videos when we're done. It'll be great. It'll brighten your day.
Oh, yeah?
No.
Then don't show me.
But I think that's all we really had for today. You have anything else?
No.
I just thought it was worth bringing in. Def Seth dropped in just in time to say hi.
You want to say hello?
And till we see you again, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jake.
We are the Dirt Road Men. Hey everybody, if you like this video, hit a like or dislike, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you really like what we're doing, check us out over on Facebook where we post every day.